Throughout his career, Jake Oettinger has been calm under pressure and, for the most part, clutch when it matters most. So why is he the most polarizing figure on the Dallas Stars? Some say he's streaky, others say he hasn't proven enough. Today, we break down why Jake Oettinger may not just be on his way to elite status, he might already be there.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Welcome back to another week of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's about time we sit down and have another discussion about Jake Oettinger and why he may already be a part of the elite goaltenders in the NHL. I'm going to try to prove that to you today on this Monday edition of Locked On Stars. We're also going to dive into our expectations for Otter during the 2025-26 regular season. Plus, Joe Pavelski has been inducted to the USA Hockey Hall of Fame. We have to touch on that to wrap up today's show as well. But buckle up. We're going to have a fantastic episode for you today. By the way, we're back to everyday episodes here on Locked On Stars. Training camp is right around the corner. Before you know it, the preseason games will occur, and then it will be opening night with the Stars and Jets in just over a month. A lot of excitement here. Hockey is ramping up. I just did 3 preseason games in Shreveport this last weekend with the Corpus Christi Ice Rays. That was a lot of fun to get back in the booth, so I'm giddy and ready to discuss some Dallas Stars hockey. Jake Oettinger, of course, the most polarizing figure on the Dallas Stars. And the reason I wanted to have this discussion is I want to try to provide more positivity and support for what Jake Oettinger has accomplished at his young age in his first 5 seasons in the NHL, because he is not being given enough credit for what he has accomplished compared to even some other greats in the game. And we're going to compare his numbers against some other greats, one in his prime, one that has just recently retired, and talk about where Jake Oettinger is and fits in the conversation of elite NHL netminders. So we're going to start with this comparison right off the bat. And it begins with none other than the 2-time Vezina Trophy winner, Connor Hellebuyck. This compares the first 5 seasons of Hellebuyck and Jake Oettinger. Hellebuyck, 270 games played. Jake Oettinger has 251. Otter has 149 wins to Hellebuyck's 148. We all know that isn't always an accurate representation of a goaltender's success or a goaltender's worth. Otter has had a very good roster in front of him for most of his time in the NHL. Actually, all 5 seasons, for the most part, he's had a wonderful, wonderful roster, maybe outside of 1 or 2 during those weird sort of COVID years. But nonetheless, okay, shutouts in favor of Hellebuyck, 20-12. By the way, you can see these graphics and you can see these notes if you watch on YouTube. I'll describe for those audio listeners out there. Goals against average. Otter has the edge, 2.52. Hellebuyck, 2.64. Save percentage. Hellebuyck has the edge, 917, but Otter's right in the mix there at 912. Of course, Hellebuyck with a couple of all-star games and a Vezina trophy to his name in his first 5 seasons in the NHL. But he's right in that conversation. He's right in the mix. And that's where we've really seen him over the last 2 or 3 years. You can look from the start of the 2022 regular season. Over the last 3 years, Jake Oettinger's in the top 10 in save percentage at 912. And it's the goals against average. He's top 10 as well, 2.55. He ranks 8th actually in both save percentage and goals against. He's won a lot of games too. He's actually won the 2nd most games since 2022, trailing, yes, only Connor Hellebuyck. Oettinger has won 108. And for whatever reason, there's this discussion that revolves around Jake Oettinger that he's not good enough to win a Stanley Cup. And maybe down the line, some of you will be proven right on that fact. But Connor Hellebuyck hasn't sniffed a Stanley Cup, and maybe he hasn't had as a talented as a team in front of him like Jake Oettinger, but Otter outdueled him in a playoff series a year ago, last spring, not even a year ago, just last spring. And frankly, Hellebuyck looked pretty atrocious in some of those games. He finally picked it up towards the end to at least get Winnipeg to a game 6, but Otter outdueled him. And yes, I know Otter has been torn apart the last couple of seasons by Edmonton, but to be fair, the Oilers have had a really, really good squad, and they've ran through the Dallas Stars a couple of good times, and they've ran through the Kings, and they've ran through others over the last couple of years. And we all know the Stars' struggles, especially defensively in some of those series. Not trying to make any excuses for Jake Oettinger, but I don't think Otter has been the number one issue or the number one problem for the Stars losing the 2 series against Edmonton in the Western Conference Final. But I just want you to glance at those numbers and think, man, he has accomplished a lot at such a young age. Now, let's go to Marc-Andre Fleury. We know about him. Generational goalie. I think that's fair to say. He's part of the best generation of goaltenders over, I guess, really since I was born. If you want to throw Carey Price in there, I think that's fair. Kind of Price and Fleury are in that conversation. But this is the first 5 seasons of Fleury, and he came in at 19. He was extremely young. So Otter has more wins, but goals against average, 2.52. Goals against for Otter, 2.87 for Marc-Andre Fleury. Save percentage, Otter, again, 912. He has a bit of an edge against Marc-Andre Fleury. And to be fair to Fleury, he was 19, as I mentioned. Otter was a skosh bit older, but not a ton. And, of course, Marc-Andre Fleury has a Stanley Cup at this point with the Pittsburgh Penguins. So you compare him against Marc-Andre Fleury, one of the best goaltenders from the 2000s, the 2010s. And Connor Hellebuyck, who is probably going to be the best goaltender of this generation when it's all said and done. And Otter is right in the mix of those conversations. And I don't think it's fair to constantly bring up he hasn't won when it's mattered the most, or he hasn't gotten it done, or hasn't gotten the Stars over the hump, because I just believe at that position specifically, you can say that about a lot of different guys. People say Shesterkin is going to be this generational talent. He's going to be the next maybe Hellebuyck, right? He is the guy already. Well, Shesterkin has gone just as far as Jake Oettinger in his career. It's not like Shesterkin has won, playoff series just by himself, or at least gotten the Rangers over the hump, and he's considered a top 3 goalie in the NHL. So why should we hold Jake Oettinger to some of those same standards? Maybe because the Stars roster has been really, really darn good, and we all believe as Stars fans that Dallas should have at least been in a Stanley Cup final one of the last, 3-4 years, and they've fallen short. And of course, you look at Jake Oettinger, and Pete DeBoer went rampage on him at the end of the Western Conference Final back in the spring. That he's 1-7 or whatever it was against Edmonton over the last couple of series. And look, it's fair to say a goaltender hasn't reached his heights, or has been an issue for Dallas maybe not making the Stanley Cup final. I think that's fair, but I also believe we have to sit back and sort of lower expectations. Maybe that's the wrong turn of phrase, but really take in the full big picture of what Jake Oettinger has done in his first 5 seasons. And yeah, he's only 26 years old. He has so much room to grow and to become his best self, really. He has a chance to he's still entering his prime, which is the crazy part. And we have maybe a decade more of Jake Oettinger. And I know his numbers aren't off the chart. I'm not really trying to argue that Otter has been a top 3 goaltender over the last couple of years. That's also not fair to say. You look at his numbers: 909 save percentages last year, 259 goals against average. That's middle of the pack. He was middling. He was a middling goaltender over the last couple of seasons when you just rank those numbers specifically. But, the postseason, he seems to up his play and has been a massive factor in what the Stars have done in their most recent playoff runs. He was phenomenal in the first 2 rounds. Arguably the most important Dallas Star that got them to the Western Conference Final back in the spring. A couple years ago, stood on his head against Vegas when the Stars went down 2-0 in that series, had a clutch Game 7. He did it again against Seattle and others, Colorado a couple of times. He has risen to the occasion, and just because he hasn't won a Stanley Cup at this point, he's 26, and yeah, maybe he's not Ed Belfour, right? Maybe he's not that, but he's still really darn good. And as I'll tell you, and as I'll show you here in just a moment, he's viewed as a top 6, top 8 goaltender in the NHL by peers and people that are ranking these lists. And I'll tell you more about that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here. It actually is here. And FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Week 1 has already concluded. Man, what a bunch of great football games on Sunday. And right now, you can join the action. New customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. When the action is unfolding, you can build a same-game parlay. You can even jump in live in the action as it unfolds. It makes Sundays even more exciting when you're on the couch like I was this past weekend, just enjoying some good old-fashioned football. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app by visiting FanDuel.com. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. So the NHL Network finally released their top 10 goalies right now in the NHL. I love discussing these lists and finding out where certain Stars players fall. The goaltending list is always controversial and always a little exciting as well. And boom, Jake Oettinger comes in at number 5 heading into the 2025-26 regular season. We're going to talk about some of my expectations, at least for Jake Oettinger in year number 6 for Otter, but he finds himself at number 5 here on this list. Connor Hellebuyck is number 1, Andrei Vasilevskiy number 2, Igor Shesterkin number 3, and Sergei Bobrovsky number 4. No issues there, no arguments there. If there's still one game and one goaltender I would choose to win a Stanley Cup Game 7 final contest, I would probably go with Sergei Bobrovsky. Vasilevskiy would still be up there. I know he's been up and down recently as he's starting to age, hasn't been as consistent, but still plays a ton and still very reliable. Hellebuyck's not in that conversation, at least for me, because of what we've seen in the postseason. For whatever reason, Hellebuyck has had some struggles. Maybe he fought some of those demons off late in that series against Dallas, and moving forward, we'll see better performances from him. But Otter finds himself at number 5. Sorokin's behind him, Binnington, Gustafsson, then Kemper, and Ullmark. Jake Oettinger is now the 6th highest paid goaltender in the NHL. So you got Igor, Carey Price is in this, who actually just got traded to the Sharks, funny enough. Sergei Bobrovsky, Vasilevskiy, Hellebuyck, Otter's behind him. And then you have Ilya Sorokin and Oettinger. They both got the same contract. It was an 8-year, $8.25 million AAV. And Otter's 26. The difference between all the guys above him outside of Shesterkin is he's 26. Sorokin's 30. Hellebuyck's 32. Vasilevsky's 31. So I think this contract is going to age extremely, extremely well. And why I was pushing during the offseason a year ago, the Stars need to get him signed. You sign him to an 8-year deal, whatever he wants, whatever the AAV needs to be, just get it done. It's going to age really good. I think you can say it's going to age similarly to this Miro Heiskanen contract, which was put into ink a couple years ago, where it's just a phenomenal value. And Otter is going to be one of the better values in the goaltending position, number 1, in just a few years' time, as long as he keeps it up, right? Look, there could be a dip in play. But I would bet on him continuing to increase his level of play and continuing to get better because of his experience and what he's already accomplished in 250 games in the NHL. This was also something I wanted to bring up. So Jake Oettinger is 1 win away from joining a list of fewest games to 150 career wins for U.S.-born goaltenders. He has a chance to actually break the record. So Frank Brimsick had 258 games played to reach 150 career wins. Jake Oettinger has 149 wins, or I should say 150 wins. Jake Oettinger has 149 wins in 251 games. So one more win in the next 6 games, he will became the goaltender U.S. born with the least amount of games to 150 career wins. Of course, Ryan Miller's on this list. Connor Hellebuyck's on this list. Former star Ben Bishop's on this list. So once again, this goes to my point of we need to be more positive about Jake Oettinger and stop looking for ways to tear him down, because I find there's this faction of Stars fans out there, and I'm not trying to be a hater here, but want to look for all the ways that Oettinger is just not perfect and looking for reasons why he can't get it done, where I think he's proven over a pretty large sample size that he can be an elite goaltender in the AHL, and maybe he hasn't reached that yet. I wouldn't put him in that conversation quite yet. I would say elite, you're like top 3 at your position. Oettinger, I think 5 to 7 is reasonable and fair. He's got to start becoming a Vezina Trophy finalist or start being at least in those conversations. That's where my expectations are for 2025-26. He needs to be in that conversation. Frankly, he needs to be a Vezina finalist if he wants to really be seen as that guy and potentially the number 1 guy for Team USA during the Olympics in 2026. That should be motivating him. Connor Hellebuyck, I would say, probably still has the edge to be that guy. Maybe the playoff series between Otter and him will sway some people and the USA Hockey Organization. Maybe it won't. Hellebuyck did look really good during the Four Nations face-off as a little tune-up. So we'll see how that all shakes out. My expectations for Otter, he's got to be the number 2 goalie for Team USA, which shouldn't be too hard, but make a push to be the number 1 guy in net for Team USA. Also, be a Vezina finalist. You got to be top 5 goals against save percentage. This is sort of my wish list for him, and I think would start to maybe convert some certain people, maybe certain fans that think he isn't good enough or isn't part of that conversation. Can he be top 5 in some of those statistical categories, which we all look at when it comes to determining, who's been the best goaltender in a certain year? Those are my expectations for Otter in year 6. Continue to clean up, continue to be sharp, and limit duds, right? Every year you're going to have 4 to 5. You're just going to have nightmare starts. That happens in the NHL. You're going to get lit up. You're going to give up 3 and 8 shots or 3 and 12 shots, and you're going to get pulled from the game. I thought last year was one of his more consistent years. He had 35 quality starts. This is starts with save percentage, which is greater than the average save percentage for the year. So he had 35 of those, second most of his career. His previous high was 39 back in 22-23 when he had a very good season and a career year. So if he can continue to bump up that, his highest Vezina Trophy voting, finish was 5th. If he needs to be a finalist. That's sort of my expectations for Jake Oettinger for 25-26. And who knows? They may need him to be spectacular in the early going. The Stars have a tough opening schedule, and they're going to be adapting to a new style, a new system under head coach Glenn Gulletson. So Otter needs to be stable in the crease. Fortunately, the Stars have a good tandem too behind him with Casey DeSmith. So when he needs a rest, they'll be able to provide it. But those are my expectations for Jake Oettinger. Be a Vezina finalist, finish let's say within the top 10 of goals against and save percentage. Top 5, that's pretty lofty. Let's keep it reasonable. Top 10 in both save percentage and goals against. And be number 2, potentially, which I'm going to be on the bandwagon for, be the number 1 netminder for Team USA going into Italy for the 2026 Olympics. But here's a couple segments on Oettinger. I don't think I provided the most eloquently description of what I was going for, but I hope you'll understand where I'm coming from. And this wasn't to beat up on maybe fans out there that aren't as huge of fans as Oettinger as I am. Many of you already know I'm a Jake Oettinger stan. I will always pump his tires, but I think I've been relatively fair on this conversation. I called him out against Edmonton. I said he was outplayed by Stuart Skinner, so there is room for improvement, but we also need to be grateful for who Jake Oettinger is. Maybe that's what I'm looking for. Let's just be a little bit more grateful about Jake Oettinger and what he's accomplished, because he's been damn good in Victory Green, and he needs some more love, all right? We need to continue to push him forward. So that's my goal here on today's episode. Now, we talked about a little bit Team USA. Why not Captain America? Joe Pavelski, yes, some good news came just this past weekend. He's going to be inducted to the USA Hockey Hall of Fame. I'll tell you more about that in just a moment. Hey, Locked On Stars listeners, we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like. You can answer some questions about our advertising and other things of that nature. You can go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card. 1 of 10 are going to be handed out. So go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link on the show notes, and we really, really appreciate you for helping us out. Leave me a review on Spotify, as well as wherever you listen to podcasts. A 5-star review would be awesome if you enjoy this content. We're back to every day here now on Locked On Stars, with the season right around the corner. But some awesome news. Joe Pavelski, very well-deserved, will be joining the USA Hockey Hall of Fame with Scott Gomez and Zach Parise as well, among the 5 elected. Pavelski, one of the 8 United States-born players to play at least 1,300 NHL games, was among 5 elected to the USA Hockey Hall of Fame class of 2025, announced by USA Hockey last Wednesday. Pavelski had 1,068 points, 476 goals, 592 assists, and 1,132 regular season games for the Dallas Stars and San Jose Sharks. His team reached the Stanley Cup playoffs. Wow, this is awesome. 16 of 18 seasons. So that just shows you right there. He was a true winner, Joe Pavelski. 16 of his 18 seasons, his squad made it to the Stanley Cup playoffs. It also says here his 74 goals in 201 playoff games, 143 points are the most by United States-born player. I don't know if I recalled that. I feel like that was brought up at some point when he was with the Dallas Stars, but that's interesting. With the Stars in his 5 years, just look at this. This is remarkable because he came to Dallas when he was 35, ladies and gentlemen. And we did this with Matt Duchene a couple weeks ago, kind of just taking a look at Duchene, and he's now entering sort of that period where you expect a player to decline in his mid-30s. He came to Dallas when he's 35 years of age. In his 5 years, he played 369 games. He was reliable, first off. He played 82 games his last 3 years. He played all 56 in that shortened season, and he played 67 before the year was cut off. I think he was available for almost every game. I think 67 is where the Stars kind of finished that COVID year before COVID shut down the world. He may have played in every single game for the Stars, which is insane at that age. But he had 120 goals, 186 assists for 307 points in 369 games. That's just spectacular stuff when he was 35. He also had 55 power play goals for Dallas during that stretch. Like, just how how productive he was, man. I know he declined really hard in his last year in Dallas, but I have a feeling like if he came back with another regular season, I think he would have been decent. Like I feel like the Stars could have lugged him along a bit more. I know it wasn't pretty, but maybe they could drop him down into a different role, because at that point he was still playing with Robertson and Hintz. Maybe the game was just too fast for him. Y'all know we love Pavelski, of course. So it would have been neat to see him play another season. I think he could. Although he would have been 40, it would have been really, really tough. But it says here he's born in Plover, Wisconsin. Was a Sharks 7th round pick. He won a national championship with Wisconsin. He was actually at the Badgers game this past weekend, which was really cool. And he won a silver medal at the 2010 Vancouver Olympics and was Team USA captain at the World Cup of Hockey in 2016. So just amazing stuff there, and cool to see him being recognized. It'd be awesome if he can get into the Hockey Hall of Fame. I think he has a pretty decent shot at it, but a slam dunk for the USA Hockey Hall of Fame, and good to see him being recognized for his great work. And I've said this constantly. It feels like he was in Dallas for a decade rather than 5 years. And that's just the impact he had here in Big D while he was a member of the Stars. And great to see him being recognized for his wonderful work on the ice with Team USA and the Sharks and Stars. But wanted to give him some shout outs and give him some fanfare as well before we called it today on this Monday edition of Locked On Stars. Jam-packed episode for you today. By the way, we got some CBA changes we have to talk about for tomorrow. We'll save that for tomorrow's episode. We have a regular season being extended. The LTIR loophole is going to be closed for the playoffs. So that's going to be fascinating and all that good stuff. By the way, thank you for making Locked On Stars your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There's no offseason over there. They're bringing you daily league-wide stories that matter most. I usually hop on every once in a while there to talk about the Stars. And for those of you looking for more content just league-wide, that is a great resource. They do a great job over there getting you prepared for this 2025-26 season. Appreciate all love and support as always on each and every episode. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Never miss an episode of Locked On Stars. Back to every day, as I mentioned. So cooking up a lot of good stuff, and just really, really excited for training camp to begin in just a couple of weeks' time. So enjoy the week. Have a great Monday, and we'll talk to you soon. See you tomorrow. So long, Stars fans.